Chapter 2, Separation of Concerns. Hey folks, this is going to be a short one because it's a pretty simple concept, but I just wanted to go over the architecture of our application because it's going to be pretty important as we move forward. Let's just quickly look at the app that we're going to be working with. At this point, we haven't done anything to our old single-page application. It's just 500 lines of code, 430 without the comments, all in one file, CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. And so the idea of separating our concerns at first is just separating them by language. And so the index.html is only going to contain our markup, or the actual building blocks on which we put our style.css, which as of right now it's just all together, just everything defining this, even all of these themes and everything, those beautiful themes. And then we have our app.js, which as of right now, as you can see, it's much, much larger, still 300 lines of code. And with these single page applications, that's the thing, it's a lot of JavaScript, and so like everything's together here. It's still hard to find what you need to edit and maintain in here. And that's the idea of splitting things up into individual modules. And the way that you would do this at first is just with some script tags, we'll get into bundling and stuff later, but at first we're just going to have to load in everything together. And I'll talk about that in a second, but let's just talk about how our application is going to be structured as we move forward. We're going to have components, features, and pages. And the pages, we load those in first because it's just some view templates. It's just some HTML mostly. Sometimes we put down some event listeners, but for the most part, it's just strings of HTML. And then the thing is, our components, these are going to be the essential parts of our app, but they need those pages to know what they're going to load in. But for the render to know what component to put in the inner HTML, for the router to know what to do, which route in the routes to load, and the store to load that stuff in. And so then we have those are the essential building blocks of our application. And then at the end, we load in these extra features like the cart and the search bar and the theme toggle. That all gets loaded in at the end here by the app.js that we load in at the very end, which actually puts down the listeners and stuff. And so as you can see, it works, but the thing is, it's a bit of a house of cards, as I say, because all you have to do is move one thing out of order and the whole thing gets screwed up. So as you can see, if I save that and we refresh, nothing works anymore. And so the idea as we move forward is, as we'll talk about modules and we'll talk about how we're going to fix that. But I want to talk real quick about what separation of concerns means today, because it's a little bit different these days whenever we have things like React. I mean, they changed everything, with most things in web development, where now instead of separating our concerns by language, sometimes we just want to separate it by components, like this calendar that I built. All of the style and markup I just put right inside of this component together. So I know anytime I need to edit it, if I need to edit any of these styles in this calendar, I just go into this calendar element right here. And as you can see, none of this style will be loaded because it's all code split with EcmaScript modules. None of this style will be loaded on the home page, which will be good for SEO and for a quick load of the home page for new customers or whatever. And so I think that's why I included this quote from Pete Hunt from his Rethinking Best Practices, his classic speech. We're talking about reducing coupling and increasing cohesion. And so that's why separating it by language isn't always the best idea, because it's nice to have all that stuff together in that calendar together in a single component. And that's why these things like Svelte and Astro these days have made these single file components where it's everything together in a single file, style, script tag, markup, and you just define everything together and it's super composable. And anytime you need to edit something with such like a single button, like this theme toggle button down here, I just go to that single component in Astro and I have all of the markup, all the style, all of the script elements. Everything is there for me to edit easily. And so that's what separation of concerns means today. But we'll be moving into the future in the next chapter where we start using EcmaScript modules. We'll talk about how we get there with IFEs, and stuff like that. And I hope you will join me for that. Thank you.